So as I said in one of my previous videos, I always flippantly said that if I were to have breast cancer, then I would get breast implants, and that would be a good excuse for me to do so. As you can see, I'm someone who does not wear makeup. I'm very natural. So I could justify it in my mind to just get breast implants because, well, it would just go against my natural beauty that I've got going for me, right? But with the breast cancer, there's a good excuse. And good excuses are always what I'm looking for. Well, no, not really, but in this sense, yes. And so it's very interesting because I am currently going through a breast cancer journey. And I want to share with you just how my perception has changed, and also the reason why I finally decided to make this YouTube channel. So let me start at the very beginning. Let me start at the very beginning of the journey. So 3 years ago, I found a lump in my right breast as I was doing one of my monthly exams. At the time, I didn't do it monthly, but you should all do it monthly, just about like 5 or 6 or 7 days after your period. Anyway, I was doing it and I found a lump. And I ended up going to my doctor who sent me to get a mammogram, and I got the mammogram. And they also gave me an ultrasound while I was there. So in the mammogram and the ultrasound, they said that, they did find a 3-millimeter lump, but it's nothing. They told me just to go home, continue doing my regular checks, but really not to worry about it. It's just nothing. And that's it. I did ask them about when I need to come back for a mammogram. They said, come back when you're 50. Now it's come back when I'm 40. So in Ontario, at least, you should start going when you're 40, every 2 years. Important to know. That's why I'm adding that for your sake. At any rate, so I kept feeling this lump, but I also had very major life struggles to deal with in the past 4.5 years. So, past 3 years as well. There were just a lot of turmoil that I went through. I'll get into that later, but that's not for here. And so every time I'd feel it, I'd just say, you know what, this is that little nothing that they talked about. And, I have so many things on my plate, including like major legal stuff that I had. I had a death of a parent. I had my daughter who was hospitalized last year for 5 days. So there was a lot. And so every time I felt it, I would be like, oh yeah, that's just that nothing. That's just that nothing. Now, finally, this May, so May 2025, I couldn't ignore it any longer. I saw that this little nothing seemed to be something, but I still waited 2 cycles just to be sure that maybe it'll go away. Maybe it's hormonal. Maybe it's just that, a cyst acting up, because they classified it as cyst the first time. And I even tried to convince myself that it's going away. Well, it didn't go away. I ended up going to see my doctor, who did a breast exam, lymph node exam, everything he did according to him. And he said there's nothing wrong with me. He didn't find anything, but I should still go get a mammogram. Luckily, he said that. I would have gone anyway. I am 40, but although I asked myself, would I have? I don't know. Because at that time, I remember thinking and feeling like a bad child going into the teacher's office for something that they wanting to ask for something, but really they shouldn't be asking for it. So anyway, I went to this mammogram feeling kind of silly because, again, they've told me it was nothing. Long story short, after that first mammogram, they sent me to get a tomography and also an ultrasound. So I had to wait a couple of weeks before that happened. And this all happened. So it started in August 21st was my mammogram. And then a few weeks after that, I had that tomography and ultrasound. And it was during that ultrasound that I realized that there is something that is going on that's not normal. Because I remember the ultrasound technician checking my breast and then checking my lymph nodes for a very long time. And as soon as she did that, I was like, okay, there's something going on, and I'm going to be called back in for a biopsy. And sure enough, after she finished, she did say that I will be coming back for a biopsy. So shortly thereafter, I went back. I ended up getting 8 biopsies, so 5 in my breast and then 3 in my lymph nodes. It was extremely painful. Given that I have small breasts, mammograms are painful, biopsies are painful, all of that is painful. And so then I remember thinking during this entire time that, okay, now I'll get those breast implants, right? Like this will, if it is cancer, I'll get those breast implants. But it was interesting. There was a part of my psyche that didn't want to lose this breast, did not want to lose it, didn't want to change it. I had gotten into a point where I was actually accepting the way I was looking. And so it was this conflict between a part of me that was like, well, this is what we've always kind of wanted, which is so silly. Looking back, it's almost, it is embarrassing. And then also having that another part of me that's like, wait a second, I kind of like my body. I like the way I look, and I feel beautiful, and I have so many positives to even having smaller breasts because they're more sensitive and I can feel sensation, and I don't want to lose that sensation. And so there was this new part, or this new part of me, or maybe a part that always existed, that was given space, and that was starting to take up more space. And it was that acceptance of that body that I had gone through in previous years, and it's always a process, but that I'm going through. At any rate, I was after getting those biopsies, so 2 days after, I learned that I have breast cancer. And so I remember that night when I got diagnosed, I took a very long time, not a very long time, but I did take time studying the diagnosis to understand it. And then in the middle of that night, I woke up. And I had already studied my diagnosis. I understood my diagnosis. There were still a few questions remaining, but that was because there were still unanswered questions by the medical staff. And so that was taken care of. My brain is such that I'll wake up in the middle of the night just to figure something out. Anyway, that middle of the night, I woke up and I started looking at images of women who've had reconstruction, just understanding, what does that look like? And the more I looked, the more I researched, and the more I understood that not only what it looks like, but also, because it could be very beautiful, but also what it feels like. And so going back to that sensation piece, one thing that I've learned to love and rejoice about my breasts is that they are very sensitive. And I love that sensitivity of the skin, but the nipples and all of that, and in sexual encounters, it's really, really wonderful and special, especially if you have a partner that pays attention to that the way that I want him to. And so as I was reading about that and realizing that this is not going to be for me. This is going to be for someone else when it comes to me, right? Because some women get it for themselves. But for me, the reason I would be getting implants has always been for someone else, and not for my own pleasure, my own enjoyment, nothing. I should also say that I'm also a very active person. Like, I work out every day. I do weights. I sprint. At one point, not anymore because I get so tired at night, but I would do archery as well. So I am a very athletic individual. And so the more research I did, the more that part of me that I had seen bits of, or little glimmers of, that did not want to get breast implants, that did not want to have breast cancer, that was just crying and saying, can we just stop this? Can we keep the way we are? Was hurt. And I remember that night, that morning, just crying, and crying not because I was sad that I had breast cancer and inevitably I will have to get a mastectomy, just given the size of the tumor that was now 4 centimeters as opposed to that 3 millimeter, crying that it had been missed, crying that I will lose this part of me, but also crying really out of anger, out of that rage, of that anger towards these society and the unrealistic norms that they place on women and girls, and that upbringing that I had that put such an emphasis on looks and beauty and the perfect, quote unquote, perfect body. And just, I remember I was so angry. I said, fuck all of this. And I am not going to put my body through something that is not right for me, just so that I look maybe good for someone else. And so it's been quite the journey. And I'm not saying that I made this decision and I've never thought that maybe I'm making the wrong decision, but I have gone through a lot of reflection And I am proud to say, and I will see how it is, I'm going to have my surgery in 2 days. So as I speak right now, it's the 19th of November, 2025. I'm having my surgery on the 21st of November, so on a Friday. And I'm not to say that, I'm not struggling with this decision and I'm like made the decision and everything's fine. But at the same time, what right does anyone have to tell a woman, a young girl, a child, what is ideal beauty? What is perfect? What right do we have to give grades to people, tell people that they're 10s or 9s or 5s or 6s based on your subjective interpretation of something? And so this rage has stayed with me. Not like I'm savage, but it has stayed with me. And I wanted to share my own journey with people. And it brought me to this point to say, you know what? I want to talk about this. I want to help other women. I want to deconstruct this ideal beauty, quote unquote ideal, because ideals change. And what's beautiful in my eyes may not be beautiful in another person's eyes. And let's not forget that beauty really is only skin deep. And when it comes down to it, a beautiful soul, a beautiful spirit, beautiful inside, whatever you want to call it, is so much more important than these superficial, unattainable ideals that we're putting on our young women and girls and women in general. And so I will go more into this journey, but I hope that you can take something from it as well.